Hello, welcome back to the Poetry Path. My name is Abby Miner, and this is the fourth in a series of 8 lessons exploring some of the fundamental tools of poetry. For the past few weeks, we've been talking about making comparisons in poetry. We've talked about simile, metaphor, and the powerful ways that these poetic tools help us to see our world anew. Today we're going to keep exploring the power of metaphors, and we're going to do that by thinking about ourselves, who we've been in the past, and who we are now. This lesson comes from a wonderful book by Kenneth Koch called Wishes, Lies, and Dreams, which chronicles his experiences teaching poetry to school children in New York City. I want to start by reading a poem from this book. I Used to Be by Mercedes Messon. I used to be a desk, but now I'm a pencil. I used to be hair, but now I'm a head. I used to be a fish, but now I'm a girl. I used to be a person, but now I'm a dope. I used to be the sky, but now I'm the ground. I used to dance, but now I'm a statue. I was a square, but now I'm a circle. I used to be a rose, but now I'm a leaf. I used to be a boy, and now I'm a woman. I used to have a baby, but now he's a dog. I used to be a rope, but now I jump. Yesterday, Mr. Coke was a man, and today he's a boy. I used to be a cow, but now I'm a horse. I used to be a paper, but today I'm made of wood. I used to be big, but now I'm large. So you can see from this poem that this third grade writer is thinking of things she used to be and things she has become. Not so much in literal terms, but in metaphorical terms. I used to be the sky, but now I'm the ground. That's a wonderful line that, of course, is not literal. A third grade girl was never the sky, nor is she now, strictly speaking, the ground. But remember that with metaphors, we're thinking in a different way. If you ask, but did this person really used to be the sky? You will not get anywhere with that question. But if you ask, what do I learn or feel about the kind of change that this person has gone through when I hear that she used to be the sky, but now she is the ground? Then, when we think about that question, we can discover a little bit more. This line makes me think that perhaps the writer feels that she used to be airy, expansive, otherworldly, like the sky, and maybe now she feels a little heavier, a little more tethered to the earth. That could be a wonderful way of describing what it's like to grow up. Notice that in this I used to be but now poem I've just read for you, the writer uses conjugations of the verb to be. We talked last week about how metaphors are often set up with the linking word is. Here, used to be and am serve that same purpose, comparing two things, girl and sky, girl and ground, and fusing them together. So now I want to invite you to think about some things you used to be and then some things you now are. And I'm going to ask you to create some metaphors to do this. Metaphors are a wonderful way to think deeply and creatively about the ways we change and grow. I want you to think about yourself in the past. What kind of person were you? How do you feel you've changed? If you had to describe your past self in terms of, say, a plant, what kind of plant was your past self? Were you prickly like a cactus or open and colorful like a rose? And how about if you had to describe your past self as an animal? Were you wild and powerful like a wolf, busy like a bee? And what if you were a sort of weather in the past? Were you stormy or sunny? How about if you were a kitchen utensil? Were you quick like a whisk, receptive like a bowl, or something else? And if your past self was a hat, were you a top hat or a slouchy straw hat, or a fireman's helmet, or something else? Take some time to think about all of these questions. Pause the screen here, grab a paper and pencil, and write your thoughts down. So now you've got your mind thinking in this way, thinking about your past self in metaphorical terms. And I want to share with you a poem that some of my students wrote several years ago, in which they used their metaphor minds to think in this way too. This poem is called Winds of Change. It was written by my students Steve, Edna, Kitty, Janet, Marie, Dolly, Russell, and Vicky in April 2016 at the Bellefonte Senior Center in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. I used to be a well-watered plant, but now I'm a dried-up cactus. I used to be a red rainstorm, but now I'm a soft summer rain. I used to be a Johnny Jump-Up, but now I'm a lazy Susan. I used to be a Swiss Army knife, but now I'm a colander, letting problems fall through. I used to be a useful scarf, but now I hide in the corner of the closet. I used to be a coonhound, but now I'm a mild little kitten. I used to be a marshmallow, but now I'm a rock. I used to be a wallflower, but now I'm a lavender orchid. I used to be a poem, but now I'm therapy. So when you hear or read the line, I used to be a well-watered plant, but now I'm a dried-up cactus, what does that make you think or feel about the kinds of changes that writer has gone through? Thinking about how these metaphors make you feel or how they make you understand the poet can help you to create exactly the effect you want to make with your own metaphors. If you want to convey that you used to feel lush and fecund, then I used to be a well-watered plant is a great metaphor. And conveying a change you've gone through, maybe from being a rather soft-spoken person to being someone tough, is certainly conveyed by the line, I used to be a marshmallow, but now I'm a rock. So now it's your turn to think about what you have become. You've already made some notes about who you used to be. Using those same categories, now I'd like you to take some time to think about who you are now. If you wrote down that you used to be a dandelion, what kind of plant are you now? Choose a plant that has qualities you feel you currently have. If you feel wise and thoughtful, perhaps you are a willow tree. And what about the animal you are now, the kind of weather, the kitchen utensil, the hat? Go ahead and pause the screen here for as long as you need to complete your own I used to be but now poem. Hi, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed writing the first draft of your I used to be but now poem. You can come up with many, many other categories to imagine your past and current selves as. For example, what kind of fruit did you used to be and what kind of fruit are you now? Maybe which famous person did you used to be and which famous person do you feel you are now? What kind of tool did you used to be? What kind of song? What color did you used to be and what color are you now? Keep your ears and eyes open for interesting opportunities to use metaphors to describe who you are and how you've changed. Here's one more way to stretch your imagination. Write a few lines using this I used to be but now format, but this time don't worry about accurately conveying some change you feel you've undergone, and don't stick to the same category with each line. Just mix it up and see what surprising images come through. You can even try doing this like a Mad Libs exercise. Just as quickly as you can, think of something white, something smooth, something rough, something cold, something blue, something red, something small, something hot. Pause the screen here while you write. So now you've just written down the first things that come to your mind, something white, something smooth, etc. Now, take those things you just wrote and write an I used to be but now poem using all 8 of those things. For example, if I wrote down wedding dress for something white and a fire truck for something red, I might, for fun, just pair those two together, writing, I used to be a wedding dress, but now I'm a fire truck. Just see what happens and create something that surprises and delights you. You might actually discover something about yourself and how you've changed that you didn't expect to discover just by writing these metaphors. I'd like to end the lesson today by reading for you 2 poems in which the poets use metaphors to describe who they are, how they feel, changes they've gone through, and even difficult experiences they've weathered. The first one is a poem called Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome by Eduardo Corral. This poem was published in Corral's first book of poems, Slow Lightning. You might know that the acronym for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome is AIDS. As you hear this poem, think about how the many metaphors in it might describe an experience of stigmatized illness. Why do you think that the poet chooses the metaphors and images he does? Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome by Eduardo Corral. I approach a harp abandoned in a harvested field. A deer leaps out of the brush and follows me in the rain, a scarlet snake wound in its dark antlers. My fingers curled around a shard of glass. It's like holding the hand of a child. I'll cut the harp strings for my mandolin, use the frame as a window in a chapel yet to be built. I'll scrape off its blue lacquer, melt the flakes down with a candle and ladle, and paint the inner curve of my soup bowl. The deer passes me. I lower my head, stick out my tongue to taste the honey smeared on its hind leg. In the field's center, I crouch near a boulder engraved with a number and stare at a gazelle's blue ghost, the rain falling through it. I hope you enjoyed that poem, and I hope you do go back and listen to it again or read it again on the screen. It's full of metaphors, and it's worth studying and thinking about what kinds of feelings you get from the metaphors that the poet uses and how you might be able to use metaphors in that same way in your own poems. I'd like to close class with a poem by Jane Kenyon called Briefly It Enters and Briefly Speaks. As you hear and read this poem, think about how you would describe this I in the poem. Who is this I? What kind of feelings do you get from all the metaphors Kenyon uses to tell you about this speaker? Briefly it enters and briefly speaks. I am the blossom pressed in a book, found again after 200 years. I am the maker, the lover, and the keeper. When the young girl who starves sits down to a table, she will sit beside me. I am food on the prisoner's plate. I am water rushing to the wellhead, filling the pitcher until it spills. I am the patient gardener of the dry and weedy garden. I am the stone step, the latch, and the working hinge. I am the heart contracted by joy, the longest hair, white before the rest. I am there in the basket of fruit presented to the widow. I am the musk rose opening unattended, the fern on the boggy summit. I am the one whose love overcomes you, already with you, when you think to call my name. I hope you enjoyed reading, writing, and thinking about poems today. If you'd like to share any of the writing you've created during this lesson, please email it to Galaxy Arts and Education Coordinator Renee McGowan at rmcquown@ciu10.org. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week.